either we're forced to rock bottom and then we're like, well, I need to build myself back up, or we're like curious enough to be like, I want to go on a personal development thing, or I want to read some interesting books, I want to have open-minded, deep conversations. If we're not guided through that journey, then we spend a lot of our life without the like zest of happiness and like it's cool, you know?
Yeah.
Because we haven't been shown how to navigate that.
Mm-hmm. Right, stop touching, start recording. Where's my coffee?
Down there.
Oh, it's down there. You're trying to cheat me out of a podcast and not buying me a coffee.
I'm expensing this to your podcast.
It's large.
I'm expensing
The
it.
coffee, not the podcast. Not large yet. It's perfect size.
It's always a good size for now, isn't it?
So, where do we start? How about there?
Are you a slurper?
No, only when I can hear myself.
I'm not into slurping.
Depends who it's with.
I actually find it quite distracting when someone's giving the big slurps.
Oh, I do as well. But you know, acceptance is the path to growth, right?
Is it acceptance, or is it just annoying and you need to then stand up for what you need in the world and don't need?
Let's ponder on that for a little second as we face each other on this huge log. This is quite some log. I was thinking, I'm pretty confident it's died of natural causes and then it was just placed here for podcasts.
It seems like it was purpose built.
You got a good squat going on.
I've got a good squat. I don't know if I can do an hour like this. I'm not going to lie. I think I'll get some knee pain, so I should probably get somewhere more comfortable, but I'm on a ridge.
Okay. Something's going right into my rectum. If you stayed tuned so far, then you're with us for the whole journey. This kind of gets rid of the people who aren't with us till the end. All this kind of waffle.
Is this in? This is it?
Oh yeah.
This is part of it?
Absolutely.
Good.
I always think if I swear at the beginning, that's going to filter some people out that probably aren't going to really enjoy this fucking conversation.
Oh dear. That's going to be me.
No. It just saves them the trouble of going the whole way through it. Because if they're not on board with the swearing, then they're not going to be on board with some of the other topics, I think.
Is
Not
the
that they're
swearing a big
vulgar.
part of your expression? Like, do you think it's important that we
I think
can
it's
swear?
intentional. What your intention's everything, right? We are contextual beings. So if you're the way you intend on something being, if it's in the right context, then I think it's fine. I don't think it's here or there. I don't think the word fuck has a big difference. I think it makes things more powerful in the moment, perhaps. But yeah.
Well, no, I think there's power in the using it as a form of expression, because it's a word that is so powerful and so full of emotion. I think when there's emotion to let out, it's a good place to go.
Yeah. But again, like you do many public speaking events, situations, and I'm sure you're very wary of the use of swear words.
I think it depends on your brand as well. I mean, because I do a lot of work across corporate world and young people in schools, then I want to have a brand and a reputation that's digestible for the sensitive ears as well as the open-minded, swearing-hearted, brave-hearted souls.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah, absolutely. Let's dive into that a bit.
Go on.
So, Andy Dunn, thanks for being here, first of all.
Pleasure.
It's awesome. We have an hour. I will respect your time. And here we are in Brockwell Park after we've just been for a swim. And I thought, why not? Let's record a quick conversation with a man like yourself. Because you certainly, for me, you give a good representation of someone I want to have lots of conversations with, because you're curious, you are you're passionate, in the right kind of passionate, and also you're mindful about things you do. You know, you're not just you don't just practice mindfulness, but in most things, everything that you do, I think you're mindful about them. You know, and that's people I want to surround myself with. So
cheers,
thank
dude.
you for being my friend, first of all.
Pleasure to be a friend, and
Yeah.
even more pleasure, and equal pleasure to do this today.
For sure. So yeah, let's just delve into you and you and your journey, because I think that would be good, even just for me to ask you more thought-provoking questions about, whilst we have the kind of the environment of a podcast to do it on. You know.
Let's do it.
So I've read your book, obviously.
Mm.
And you've sent me the new version, and now you told me there's another retitled version.
And from a marketing point of view, updated the title to "Searching with Purpose."
Okay,
is the new title.
And what was the reason for that? Obviously, marketing purposes, but what was the?
So the previous title was "Feeling Lost and Finding Your Way," and whilst that really summed up what I went through, that I felt so lost, down, broken, confused, a mess. I was happy to admit that and tell the world that I was lost, and then I did find my way to a place of peace and clarity and direction and purpose and drive and all those good things. But when you're giving a book to somebody else in the hope that it can help them, and you know that this book might be the thing they need to open something up, I got lots of feedback from people saying they don't want to necessarily tell someone else, they think they're lost. Whereas you can tell someone that I think this would help you create more clarity in your direction. It's a different message, right? So it was more like listening to customers, readers, and their feedback that I sat with it and thought, what's a title that still feels authentic and true and represents what I was searching for, and a purpose to make it make sense and make my life make sense, and that confusing transitional time of my life make sense. And I think, to describe what searching with purpose is for me, it's, you used the word intentional before, and I think, we can look around, but that we can also do it with energy and conviction and a bit of we can, be interested in these trees in this park and just look around, or we can go up to one of the trees and have a really close look, and go let's get into the trees. Or if you're looking for a new job and a new career, you can look on the internet for a bit, or you can pick up the phone and ring your dream company and be like, I love what you do. I want to send you representation of what I believe in video form, and I'm all in for it. You can really have this more purposeful, driven approach. And I think when we're looking, not force it, but there's got to be some sense of conviction about what we're doing. Because the kind of wishy-washy bit in between where we're kind of looking, it's I found that I was doubting myself, and other people were doubting what I was trying to do as well. So I think there's got to be purpose to do good in the world and connect with a higher consciousness and all that good stuff, but also within ourselves, that we've got to do things with we've got to mean it, and we'll find it because people vibe off our energy when we're I'm showing up for this today and I'm doing this. When we are lackluster, or we are people I don't want that.
Yeah, absolutely.
So that sort of sums up the book, I think. I mean, it doesn't at all sum up the book, because the book is about a journey through anxiety, depression, questioning my sexuality, understanding my future career, having friendship and colleague breakdowns, traveling different cities, lots of complex moments. But at the end of it was coming back to myself and finding peace, self-love, if we can use that kind of expression without it sounding too hippie. But being we sometimes have to go a long way to then come back to cliche, but to be where we were, but with a more grounded, centered, compassionate view of who we are.
I think it's interesting the word losing something or feeling lost, because we say it. I heard it on a podcast the other day about losing someone. Oh, I've lost my mother or something. And you think, well, if you say that, or you say I've lost myself, you then end up externally trying to look for it without actually you coming to realise, which is I'm sure you did. You found yourself. You found actually nothing was wrong in the first place. Nothing was missing. You end up finding the thing.
Finding more goodness as well, and finding more magic within yourself that you'd not realised or appreciated, and whether they're skills or talents or just things about your natural human body that you're like, wow, I didn't actually appreciate this part of myself. I'd remember some childhood comment that put me down, and I still held on to that rather than appreciating what I have and who I am, you know?
Where do you think your most resistance was within life when you were going through that time? Because you graduated within university was when you started to go down this kind of depressed time, I guess.
No, it was after university.
Oh, really?
Yeah, like university, I was flying. I mean,
on fire.
Yeah, I mean, I was probably, suppressing. I don't think I knew what the word anxiety meant. I think nervousness and a bit stressed. And I think stress is often the heart of most mental health things. When we are like, something triggers us and then we're in this like heightened state of pressure. But inverted cameras, I was fine at university. People would not have known. Yeah, there's nothing wrong.
So what was the instigator then to send you down that?
I mean, it was me not knowing what I wanted to do with my future, and other people having an idea, and then there being a conflict with me feeling like, well, I don't want to do that, but if I don't do that, then I've got nothing, and therefore I'm like sat on my own. And then, am I willing to be able to sit in that empty void of whether it's a week or a month or however long it is, and like figure things out, And I wasn't probably comfortable enough in myself and had high enough self-esteem to know that I'll be okay. Let those people go off and do that thing that I could have been part of. But it felt scary to let that go. But that was partly because I wasn't confident within my own skin enough. Like, I think we can always feel better about ourselves, but I wasn't confident enough about who I was to say, like, I believe deep down that isn't right for me. I don't know what is, but I just know there's something else to go after, and that's what I really care about. And I couldn't have that. I didn't have the awareness to have that conversation. So just bottled it up, and then I think when we bottle things up over a long period of time, that's when it like tips into a mental health condition or anxiety, and then I spiraled, had a couple of nervous breakdowns, and it was it was a mess. I was a mess. Sad, and it's hard to. I mean, sometimes I talk about it quite objectively, like very removed from and then I forget that it's every day. People are in that, and they're not. They don't know how to get out of it. There's amazing analogies of I saw a video the other day of a kid appearing to drown in the swimming pool and screaming, arms flapping everywhere, and the parent just turned the kid like that and it could touch the floor, and it was the kid was oh, I'm fine, but because it didn't realise that the floor was just there, and they were in this flapping, floundering state, and not knowing that you could just put your feet on the ground and you'll be alright. You weren't in the deep water, the water was shallow, but you just got confused of where you were. And I think it's a fair analogy of how I felt, that I felt out of control all over the place, and my mind was just racing out of control, and I didn't know how to bring it back, and I didn't know that I would be able to bring it back. And then I was didn't know how to describe it. I didn't have a language for it. I didn't then know. Thankfully, my parents, my mum in particular, pointed me to a GP and was you can go there, get support. And then it went from that to then, 6 months to 2 years of self-development and reading books, doing some CBT, learning about the mind and happiness and emotions. And then 10, 12 years later, I've used it as part of my career, let's say. It's not my career only, but it's deepened my understanding of humanity, of human beings, of emotion, of what stress and pressure does to us, what lack of direction does to us, what low self-esteem, and then the reverse of them, when we feel good, when we feel clear, when we feel on purpose, on track, whether it's in business or leadership or just within ourselves in our own life, how that can give us a sense of tranquility, happiness, joy, or just we feel good and we can keep going on life, whether it's in a pandemic or just normal life, you know. So it's that experience. I'm still so grateful for that, and these conversations really help to like bring it back and remember like how far I've come, but also how far anybody has come that has been through a difficult phase of life, whether it's from a tragic accident, from grief, from a mental health situation, from whatever thing people have been through. Like if you've been there and you've been down for a distinct period, it's like I think it was this quote about like only when you've been in the darkest valley you can appreciate the highest mountain, like that kind of I think Nixon said it, which we might not love everything about Nixon, but that quote is like still so genius of like when we've been in the dark we then stand on the light and shine. It's so
nice.
There's a little bit. There's a segment.
I think you summed it up well. I mean, and you've got such a clear understanding of it as well, coming out of it the other side and where you're at now, and knowing you had to go through that. And when you were in that, what was your relationship with like acceptance and resistance? Because those two things I've been thinking quite a lot about lately, and how much whatever you resist persists, and it is within the resistance to change, resistance to things happening day to day, or resistance to the feeling that you had, that depression or that signal. Your body was signifying something that isn't quite right. I don't feel a sense of purpose. I don't feel like I have a direction. So my body's sending me a signal, and it feels like I'm going under. So that relationship between that, but then also just accepting, maybe back when you were going through it, if you think back, like, was there a knowing? For me, I've always seen this light of like, I know that there's learning in this. I'm not considering myself a loser because I don't feel good. I'm considering myself in a learning process.
I mean, I think that can only happen if you've been guided through something before, where you've had a difficult experience in life, whether it's being 10 and playing basketball and losing a competition and it being really hard to take, and then you were guided through that to know like you can bounce back from this, you build resilience. Or it's like
adversity training.
Like you go through anything that's adversity, but there's got to be a sense of guiding people through that, because not everybody's good at self-reflecting and having the self-awareness and saying what is, and it's not good to go through it, but there's good things can come out of it. Like when a business makes bad decisions and lose money, or when businesses go under, or when different things happen in life that are tough, there's always learning to be gleaned from it, but it's never nice and often not what we're aiming for. What was your original question?
I guess your relationship between that, did you have any acceptance at the time of like, right, I'm just going through this, and this is almost like I'm going through this for a reason, so I'm just accepting the process? Or were you really resistant to kind of like, oh, this isn't right, I don't want this, and then like shunning it away and locking it away? Because I think a lot of people do that. A lot of people think, oh, I'm not feeling good, but I'm just going to ignore it. I'm going to resist it.
The change curve of like the denial phase, and then the anger, frustration, then it comes up to acceptance. But I think it takes a long time, or it took me a long time then to get to acceptance. And I say a long time, like a couple of years to go through that properly. And cause I think if we're not able to, we need to move through it, but the bit of processing the anger or the frustration or the sense of like I'm not where I want to be, if we can't let that be okay to express, we can't move past it. We're just trapped in this thing of like,
you're not only where you're not where you want to be, but you're also in a state of disease because you're sending your body a signal that it's not okay to be right here right now.
And therefore why would you move forward when you're not okay? Like you can't go further forward. Like you sort of need to be like, you need to cross this bridge before you can cross the next one, and this bridge is about like being comfortable with the struggle, or it's about letting go of what you thought you wanted and like let's get to know this a bit better. but it's not easy to do that stuff. You know, it's still not easy. Like, I guide other people through it for a living, and I'm, you know, qualified and very good at that. But equally for myself, I still find it, you know, I still go to coaches and counsellors and go on courses and things because, you know, we need other people to guide us through these things because they're not always easy to know the right language or to like really be honest and articulate stuff. It's that's why, you know, when people are thinking that I need some help here, I'm like, get some. You know, like, don't try and do this stuff on your own. Like, it's one of the, you know, it's like, of all the things in life, I think it's one of the most complex to like navigate our own emotions in our own internal world. Like, we can't see it, you know. That's why it's so difficult. Like, if someone taught you to put up a shelf, you can like watch the process. Here's a shelf, put some screws in here, and you watch the process and you can do it, and then you can see it and you can do a drawing. But like the internal stuff, it's like it gets messy and confusing, and
especially when we're not educated around it.
And to know the basics of what does sadness, how does it show up for me, different, might be different to you, or how does anger show up different to me or you, or how does all these different emotions. And I think there's a long way to go till generally people have a better emotional, not just intelligence in terms of being able to understand other people's emotional awareness, but to be able to be open about their own enough to then navigate it.
Yeah.
I think that's a big difference.
And also, we still know little about the brain. We know a lot, no more than we did 10 years ago, but we still know quite little. And in terms of like the second brain, the gut, and like all the information and knowledge that's come out of that in the last 20 years or whatever, we're still learning about what signals what and where feelings kind of come from almost.
And once we do that work, it's cool, you know? I say not to belittle it because it's tough, but it's like, oh, this is my trigger. That's how I sometimes feel, and this is what's going on in my life. Like, how can I change that pattern, and how can I notice that and realise that, you know, we're all born with these gifts and strengths and skills, and all born or nurtured up and have these challenges that we've got to address in ourselves. And it's like, once we see it as we can be compassionate with ourselves and be like, oh, I'm having one of those bad days or weeks or hours or whatever because I find this stuff hard, and we can be like, all right. And if we can tell people around us that's what's going on, then we can get help, navigate it, laugh at it, maybe, or be like,
do you still have moments of kind of self-doubt, I suppose?
No, I've nailed life. I've nailed it all. I'm, you know, supremely confident, happy every day.
You get to elevate to the next log.
I shall move to the next log. Of course. I mean, I'd be the biggest liar ever, and I think most people would to say I don't doubt. I think
good.
It's almost
an easy question to ask because a lot can come on the answer.
No, it's good. I mean, like, I think I've got a better relationship with knowing that I'm doubting myself, and that's not a good place to be in, and I can see past it. But I think, you know, I'm an ambitious, driven person who wants to like do things to evolve the work we do in education to, you know, but I'm also a creative soul who likes to build things and make things happen and do stuff. And if we've got that creative energy to go and do stuff, and we want to do things a little bit bigger, a little bit different, like, there's going to be that voice in our head that wants to keep us safe and be like, Andy, this is, do you want to do that or not? Can you do that? Or what about if that goes wrong? Does that need to be really good? How about have you done that before? And this little voice is there to then
keep you alive.
Keep you safe, keep you alive. And but I think like, what was your question? Self-doubt. Like,
how does it show up now, and how quickly can you get back to right? I'm convictious, and I'm just going for it, and I don't doubt that it's going to be.
I think it's ego stuff.
Decision.
I think it's when we're misguided on like what the real driver is or what the real prize is of what we're doing. That's when the ego gets in the way, and we can probably doubt ourselves because we're not driven by love or the pure energy, or like we're not driven by that anymore. And therefore, when we are in that sense of authenticity, like, we're great. We're absolutely great.
Sure.
We're beyond great. We're expressing ourselves in a way that we're not trying to show anything, we're just being it. And the more we are being it, it's less effortless.
Yeah.
No effort, but it's like, because it's a natural energy. It's like
Mm-hmm.
I'm doing this as if it's like a
paper money.
je ne sais quoi, something about the energy.
Va-va-voom. Oh, that's so sexual. So, right, I think the ego is somewhere where I'd like to talk about a little bit more, because my relationship with the ego, I don't fully get it yet. I don't think. I was listening to "The Ego Is the Way" by Ryan Holiday. He goes full on in it, a real harsh attack on the ego, saying it's really the enemy. And
The Obstacle Is the Way book.
That's the one before.
Oh, right. Then The Ego Is the Way is a follow.
No, the ego is the enemy. Maybe I got that wrong. Crossing titles.
I've just read The Obstacle Is the Way.
Oh, you gotta do "The Ego Is the Enemy." Some gold in there. He's a very wise guy, and he ends up with a Tim Ferriss podcast at the end of it, which is fascinating. So yeah, he just completely full on gets the ego and holds it up to the light and just picks apart everything that it does wrong for us, almost, I think. And he goes back to like ancient times and like all these great leaders and these great battles that were fought and won, and where the ego is really like just run people into the ground, essentially. But then ego's not the enemy, because it's part of us. It's there for a reason. It serves us in some way. It's not just totally bad. There is no bad. There's a relationship in relation to the other parts of ourselves that it needs to be there. It's there for a reason, right? So I'm always quite cautious when I'm 100% confident and I'm fully in something and I'm feeling great and I'm like, no, I'm wavering right now, and like people are listening to me, I've got so much wisdom, and I'm like, I'm on a roll, I'm flowing, I'm in my flow, and then I'm like, hold on a moment, your ego's getting the better of you, and then I seem to shut down.
See, I love
slightly.
that feeling.
But aren't you cautious of that feeling? Because that's what I'm trying to say, is that I'm quite cautious of, oh, here you go again, there's the ego creeping in. Don't get ahead of yourself, Chris. You're not all that. And be careful, because if your ego gets there, then you're not being authentic and you're not being your best self, I guess.
I guess for me, the authenticity is like, are you playing in the right lane? Are you like in the right arena of life?
Sure.
And as long as you are, and you're not, depends what you're chasing because of it. But I think there's something nice about like just purely letting go and being like, I love this, I'm reveling in this, and like, here we go.
Yeah,
you know?
I guess I'm just cautious of that feeling of like, I know exactly where I'm going and what I'm doing.
Because I guess I think the reason we doubt that or want to not go there is because we're afraid that if we follow that dream or that path and we don't make it, that's tough to take. So it's safer to then pull back a little bit rather than be like, I'm on that train to Magic Land or wherever we're going to. That's often where I'm trying to go, Magic Land.
You have to be there at 6, don't you?
6 o'clock today, Magic Land.
Yeah, it's interesting. Perhaps it is a fear voice. Perhaps it is a... Ooh. There you go. Was that in my head? That fear gunshot. Be cautious. Yeah, perhaps it is a... What if you fail? Don't get ahead of yourself.
What if it doesn't work out the way you think it's going to work out? What if it's not what you want it to be? You know, what if it's...
Yeah.
You have this, like, picture and then it's nice in your mind, you know? It's when we have this ideal in our mind, it's like...
Don't meet your heroes.
Yeah, that sort of thing. Or, yeah, it's... and our minds are so good. Like, our human imagination is, like, impeccable and fast and quick, and we can build this, like, instantaneous vision of what we want and then not realise that that's that's 30 years of difficult work to get there, but it feels so there in our minds. And it's like, I think there's often this disconnect between what we feel and see as possible and then how long it might take to get there. Or certainly I feel that in myself and see it in a lot of people I coach and work with, that especially people that have this creativity and this vision, that it can be so clear in our minds, but then equally like we don't necessarily know how we're going to like take those steps to get there. And I think we put ourselves down when the end is clear and we obviously know where we are now, but we don't have that like roadmap to get there. And saying that like I'm going to go for that is also putting ourselves out there in the sense of like vulnerability and putting all your chips on the table, or whatever the metaphor is of like, this is what I'm going after. So I think for some people it's like really into it and we're like, whoa, this is like, you know, like what's the phrase, like what if I fall but what if I fly? That's the I'm making a mess of some quotes here today. But I think it's, you know, something like that, isn't it? Like the bird on the bird on the branch. Like,
yeah, I'm not helping you out, you're on your own.
I know you. I'm literally on a branch here though, aren't I? You know, big branch.
No, you're in the root section.
I don't know. What do you make it? Is that?
Yeah, no, I think you're right. It's all about that balance between discipline and surrender. That kind of, can we fear of failure? Is there such a thing, you know? Or is it our perception of someone else's perception of us? I heard something today that talked about, I'm not what I think I am. I'm not what you think I am. I'm what you think I am.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Complex, but I got it. Yeah.
Yeah. So it's like I'm perceiving how you're perceiving me.
Yeah.
So whatever I do is in relation to everything else. So if I'm going for a hole in one, and I think, all right, I'm going to get this hole in one. Whatever sport you're playing, there's lots of hole in ones you can do. So I'm hitting the shot. Hole in one. Golf. It could be a penalty.
What?
Hole in one.
It's not hole in one.
There's no hole in ones in penalties.
You're clean out a football, right?
I edit that out. Okay, I'm playing golf, all right?
Yeah.
It's trying to be elusive. So I'm going for a hole in one shot. This is a really bad example because there is the basic what I'm trying to say is there is no failure. It's only a failure in relation to everything else, right? So we're always constantly in relation to things. So in relation to, you know, your score on the board is whatever my score is, and I can perceive that in a way that makes me feel like a failure. And that's generally what life is and where our perception comes from, and where all these things like, you know, the score comes from, and the failure and the succeeding, like what is being successful. It's in relation to everything else that is or is not successful and what we deem. So until we start to break down these constructs and just let ourselves off the fucking hook and like start to really just, actually this is all a bit of a weird one. It's all conditions and all complex constraints and what's the other word?
Consider yourself.
Constructs.
Sorry, I made a joke.
It's all constructs. It's all a bunch of constructs, right? So we're all in relation to things. So when you have that sense of failure, just start to ask yourself, well, is it real? Why is it even there? And then you're trying to overcome a sense of failure. It actually doesn't exist.
But it's pressure, right? It manifests itself as pressure we put on ourselves to show up in a certain way because we think that other person needs or wants that from us.
Yeah.
And we also then want to protect the image that we think is important to other people when it actually might not be. And I think that's that pressure we put on ourselves to. We spoke about perfectionism earlier in this like pressure, but I think that stress or that pressure to be a certain way. We also do a lot of like overthinking of like what we think other people rather than just asking people.
Where do you think that comes from? Where do you think that caring what other people think comes from? Why do people like caring so much?
Well, I think it's hard to separate, you know, because part of it, you know, like if I go and get a haircut and I spend 12 quid or 30 quid on my nice haircut, I'm like, I want to look good. I want to attract a partner. I want to like feel like I've got the moves, like Jagger or whatever. And I want to be like, I'm good and looking good, so I care that other people think, nice haircut, Andy. Or I care that if I go and do a talk to a group that I make a difference. I care, or I care what people think, because I think most of I care what people think is good. Just the end of the sentence is that like I don't want them to criticize me, or I'm uncomfortable if they're critical. I'm uncomfortable if I don't deliver what they wanted. Then it makes me a failure, and then I feel guilty for that, or I feel ashamed of that, or if everybody doesn't accept me for who I am, it's going to be hard. And that stuff is hard as a kid, I think, and I think we still carry that stuff as an adult because we're then in this tough social environment that we can't easily change. Like as an adult, you can, if you like join a netball club and it doesn't quite work out, you can be like, I'm going to go and join a swing dance group. Oh, swing dance is my people, I'm in. Whereas in school, you're like in this group, and if you're not liked and appreciated, you can't just easily be like, I want to change, I want to move. You're in this like world, so therefore, I think in our school world,
a couple of steps, and then you're that kid in the playground talking to himself. It probably wouldn't take much, would it? If you mean kids to just choose you,
there's a lot of fitting in, right?
Absolutely,
and
it's very tribal, very, very tribal in the sense of belonging, being kicked out of the tribe. And that, what can that do? What does that mean? That sends signals to you, right? You're going to die now. Because back in the day, if you were out of the tribe, you're on your own. You're dead.
Here's a good one for you. I'll give you some gold.
Go on. I'm loving this sun.
It's beautiful, isn't it? Absolutely gold. So I had a coaching session the other day with my coach. Kat is a superstar, and I was in a state of, I felt pressure to make a few business decisions that I wanted to go well, and and then Kat helped me realise that I was in this state of like fight or flight. So she made me do this exercise of like, first of all, acknowledging, like looking over my shoulder, just like this, to check there was no tigers. She was like, just you're in your home office, just check there's no tigers. And I literally like there's no tigers. And then it was playful, but it was also this reminder of like my body's reacting like there's a tiger coming to hunt me down. There's not.
Love it.
And it was really cool, like, and so memorable as well, like great exercise to do, to just then be like, I'm in this fight, flight, tense mode, like I would be if I was like a saber-toothed tiger's here, like, fuck, I've just sworn. There you go. There you get swear word in the podcast.
Bringing it out, yeah.
Bring it out. Ah!
There's a line over there. Don't look.
I know.
No, but it's what we were talking about earlier. I was saying about podcasts. 30 minutes in.
Yeah.
I'm safe with you now.
Safe. We can.
I don't. Yeah. I believe that you would tell me if there was a lion over my shoulder. I believe you. So I trust you. Yeah. And it's like I've talked to people I've just met. All right, how are we going? We've hit record, and they did. Like I don't know. You could be crazy and just start asking me questions which I'm not prepared to answer, and it's being recorded, and I've not signed anything, and it's going out there to the world. But give me half an hour, and I'll make up my mind, and then I'm easy to talk to.
And bringing this full circle, if we stay on that point of fitting in, when I shared my story at the beginning of like losing my sense of direction of myself post university, I think that we typically spend up to 18 being like, we go through puberty, we go through all these transformations, we're going through exams and fitting in, who am I kind of stuff. And then for me, I went to university, and that was quite a exploratory phase of like, listening to different music that I'm like, I've never listened to them before, or like dressing in indie clothes because I'm trying to fit in with the cool kids because I wasn't that cool in school probably, or relatively. And then I think if we don't then consciously then be like, okay, you've tried loads of stuff, but who are you? Who are you authentically? Like, and where is your like, who are your people? What's your fashion style? What's your like interest in the world? Like, is it the sustainability crew? Is it the discotheque crew that go to this jam in Berlin every year and they live and breathe that stuff? Are they your people? Is it wearing like bright colour clothes and having attention? Is it quiet reading? Like, who are your people and who are you? And I think if we're not guided through that, if we're not encouraged to explore, we then stay in this very like narrow conditioning from our upbringing. But then if we don't go through exploration and then guided to like back to ourself and our authenticity, that's when we don't feel comfortable or good and then able to be brave and courageous. And because we're still in this like, I don't quite know who I am, or I don't fully accept who I am, and maybe I don't have the people around me that love and support and enable me to feel good as I am. When we have got those people, life's a very different ball game.
Mm-hmm.
And like I know now that like, you know, in my 30s, still when I have doubt or whatever, or I'm in a phase of like it's a tough week or whatever, there's certain people that I can call upon that I know that they will bring me back to like who I am. They will, because I trust them and they trust me, and we've got this connection and we're like in sync. And then it's like that syncness that then makes it all possible again. Like the ego disappears, we're like, I'm on my path and I know what I'm doing, and that's important. So I think I guess that journey of like most kids go through, and you know, I think, you know, when I coach or work with people in their 30s, 40s and 50s, there's some people are still going through that like phase of I've never quite been guided to make peace or discover my authentic self. Because it's, you know, and again, everyone makes different choices. Like, you know, my you know, mum made the tough choice of like not going to university and then bringing kids up and then going to university later, and then therefore, you know, she will retire a bit earlier and have more time to explore the world and travel. And I think different people have these times of life very differently. But I think unless we are guided, either we're forced to rock bottom and then we're like, well, I need to build myself back up, or we're like curious enough to be like, I want to go on a personal development thing, or I want to read some interesting books, I want to have open-minded, deep conversations. If we're not guided through that journey, then we spend a lot of our life without the like zest of happiness and like it's cool, you know?
Yeah.
Because we haven't been shown how to navigate that.
Mm-hmm. I think life will present you with the lessons along the way. It's just whether you're trying to look the other way and ignoring them.
Yeah. I'm gonna get comfortable, by the way.
I think the best thing in life to do
is if you're sitting on your leg.
If you're sitting on your leg, change position. That's why you have a good relationship with the ground, because you will know when to move when your body wants to move.
Sorry, dude, you were saying?
No, yeah. So I think life will present you with the lessons you need at that moment in time. Like the people who you surround yourself with or gravitate towards, they're largely on your level. You're never going to really have that much in common with someone who's 2 steps above you in consciousness. Like you'll get presented in life with the lessons from the people, from situations that you need at that moment. So it's being open to that. And yeah, you said talk about people enabling you and supporting you, and that's so important. It's that's on the same lines of what I'm talking about. But I think if you're closed off to life, if you're spending time on your own, then you're not living life. And we can do all these practices like go for swims in the Lido on your own and feel good and feel like that's my practice, or get down on the mat and do some yoga. But unless you're out in life, getting presented with these situations and being open to them and like, right, what's the lesson here? What am I learning here? What can this allow me to see? If you shut off to all that and just very linear, you're not going to develop.
And it is easy to get consumed by one's thoughts and therefore then withdraw and then not be out there to take the opportunities. Like, you know, even to be truthful, like I've had a tough couple of weeks, tiring wise, and if you didn't have this in my diary, I wouldn't have had the energy to be like, I'm going to get on my bike, cycle across here, get in a cold swimming pool outdoors, and like it was wonderful and I needed it. Like I benefited from it so much. But that's why I think, you know, having people that are supportive and on the same path of life that we need around us, so that when we are in those like low phases, people can, like, without knowing it, like lift us out of it. And they might just be doing their normal jam, and you go like, you're catching their current, and you're like, way.
Yeah, catching their current.
Catch their current, That's good, isn't it?
It's a great phrase, yeah.
Catch their current.
Yeah.
You can have that one in.
Because you are, and I didn't know you were really, lacking energy, but I suppose what we had planned already was something that you'd want to do on a day that you had energy, so it kind of brought you back to that place.
But even the swim we had, on a day of big energy, I'd have wanted to swim a kilometre, and I'd have felt like that was like challenging enough, a good workout. But today, like, it was absolutely freezing cold, and I'm from Newcastle. I know what cold is like, but I was like, I also wanted to make peace with myself that, like, my body's tired, like, swim, but don't put yourself through pain that's not necessary. Like, don't do an extra 10 just to prove a point. Like, who are you proving a point to? Like, get in the pool and do something. Don't, like, I think there's that, like, little balance of, like, when we need a bit of encouragement to do something, but not so much that then the pressure becomes too much.
It's interesting because it's kind of glorified in a way on, like, social media, and you follow someone's account who's just all about that and all about pushing through the barrier, and the day for the gym is the when you don't want the gym, and like the Gogginses and even Joe Rogan to a large extent, like, talks about, I wasn't feeling up for the workout today, but then I just put my body through it, and I'm like, yeah, sure, but is that right for you right now? He's probably an exception because he has probably lots of downtime and has time off, but if you're still in work mode a large percentage of the time, and podcast isn't your main thing that you do and just talk for a living, then it's probably not best that you do that, and it's probably best that you listen to your body.
And in those moments, to conclude that bit, it's being aware that often our thinking isn't helpful. As in, our thinking will hold us back and tell us that we won't feel better for having a swim. I haven't got the energy to have a swim. I'll feel worse, or I'll feel better where I am. Well, actually, I would definitely feel better by being in nature, in the sunshine, in water, moving my body. But it feels hard to get there on your own. So that's why I think, having community, having people around you, and, if it's fitness, having a fitness coach that will be like, come on. Or if it's business, having a manager or a mentor to help lift you there, or having even when I'm coaching other people or I'm being coached myself, there's times when I see the resistance, or I feel the resistance, like, I don't know what I'm going to get from this, but then there's so much gold in everything, because we just need to be probed and asked and guided, and then, like, we fly again, and that's why, like, I live and love what I do, and also appreciate the process. For when I get coached myself, I'm like, or as long as we trust and value the mindset and philosophy of that coach, there's so much gold every time. And we don't, and so often I don't know what's going to happen. I just know something great will. Yeah, and just having people there, even forget the experience of what we've done today. We've actually just been in a relation with each other, and that's all it is, really. Like, even having a coach, like, you've got someone to bounce ideas off, and you've like feeling good just being with people, around people. And especially at a time now, and it's that, like, energy from the other person takes you out of your thinking of yourself as well. That I think it's, but it's important that these people are people that, share our, not necessarily share all of our values and our lifestyle, because the nice thing is, you're a little bit more outdoorsy than I am, and a little bit more into rewilding and nature, but that's a world that I'm open to exploring more as well, and that's why I'll spend time with you, because this is cool and good for me, and I know it's, as well as you're a nice person.
Take your shoes off.
Oh, here we go.
I'm joking, they're pretty flat.
Sorry? They are quite flat, aren't
good.
They alright?
Yeah,
you approve of them?
Yeah.
They've got a couple of holes in.
That's even better. Keeps you humble. Amazing. Anyway, I want to respect your time, sir. We are coming up to an hour now, so what scares you, Andy Dunn? Apart from lions.
Just end on a small question, Chris. How do you want this to be answered? In what context?
What are you scared of? What scares you? Flying in a plane? Does it scare you?
Heights.
Does
some heights scare me. I don't like beyond second floor in an apartment block. I don't like.
Okay.
Still a bit, I'd get like uneasy at the edge.
Vertigo.
Yeah.
Yes.
It's one thing I would love to crack, only because I know so much about the mind that I know it's a lot of it is mental. Like when I was a kid, I wouldn't go on the big water slides and stuff, like the big ones that you drop. So I'd love to go back to Disneyland as an adult and be like, go on the big one and be like, and just be with that experience and be like, because the kid I was just like, no way. It wasn't even like climb a few stairs and then say no, or like get at the top and have a look and say no. It was just blanket no. It was just and I think that's an interesting metaphor of like when we take a bit more of a step towards that thing that we want to do, whether it's life, business, water slide, whatever it is.
Yeah, what's that water slide? What's at the bottom, you know? What's that going to allow you to unlock?
And we can, watch like a queue of 50 or 100 people before us be fine and be safe, and we can know that they're right, so we could rationalise, but I was probably 12 years old and not able to have this kind of conversation. But on some level, we're like, other people are doing it, it's probably safe. But then for me, it was like anxiety inducing and scary, and I was like, nah. So, I'd love to go back and crack that one day. But it's in
that's the next meeting.
Blizzard.
Maybe not in Disneyland, but let's
Blizzard Beach in Florida.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, it's huge, unbelievable.
I've been to Orlando, Busch Gardens, Magic Kingdom, and all that. A phenomenal trip when I was 15. School trip.
School trip.
Yeah, I know.
Good school, Chris.
Good mum and dad. They paid for me and my brother to go, but it was a seminal achievement in my life. Just the relationships that I've got with, I suppose, one friend, but yeah, the memories of that were just that and India when I was 5 years old.
Wow.
Most memories of like my specific memories of a trip, just because it was school holiday. Was it school holiday? The schools were there over there, and then I was just running around, kind of like we booked it out. Michael Jackson's back garden type
Really?
vibes.
No.
Good point to end it on. Anyway, sir, yeah, cool.
Thanks for
Appreciate the hour.
pleasure.
Fitting it in.
Hope there's some goodness and golden thoughts for
I'm
people
sure.
in there.
Yeah. All right, mate.
Cheers, dude.
Peace.
Namaste.